Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time, back with his good friend Matt, the lumberjack. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing really awesome. You sent me the text.
Yes, I
You
did. So,
said, I need you to watch this video. And I was like, oh no.
yeah, we do this on occasion for folks. So, how did this topic come up? So, about a week ago, I believe John Oliver put out a video, I don't know, 15 minutes long about rent, where he basically trashed landlords of all ilk.
Mhm.
I normally don't watch that stuff, but I had 5 or 6 followers say, "Hey, can you do a response video?" So I'm like, "Hey, I'm not sure I want to do this on my own. Let me reach out to a friend. You were my next interview on Tuesday, so you were the lucky guy who got sent the video to watch with me." So, why don't you? I actually have a full page of notes, but why don't we just do a raw reaction of what you two? Oh, great. So, John Oliver Rent, what did you think?
Uh, I used to think he was smart. And now I just think he's witty.
There's a difference. Yes.
Yeah, there's definitely a difference. Yeah, he's proven to me he's witty. He's not smart. And he's got really good writers because there's no way he came up with any of that stuff.
Yeah.
I think generally he completely misframes it.
Mhm.
And so I just have, let's see,
Oh my goodness.
40. Yeah.
We got pages of notes.
Yeah. But it's, the first thing is one of the assertions that he makes. And so I just like to deal with some of the specific assertions that he makes. And to let people know that this isn't stuff that I just feel. This is stuff that I actually went out and did additional research on. So in all honesty, you're probably getting about 2 hours of my time that I put into this. I didn't just watch it, and this isn't just how I feel. This is actual data.
Yeah.
So supply and demand.
The one thing I want to say before you jump into this is it is very clear that he came into this with one angle and one angle only. It wasn't balanced. It wasn't fair. He went out and found the most horrible people. Again, those people that he had, horrible individuals. It's hard to argue, but that's, 1-2%. But I have a lot of stuff to say too, but go ahead, please.
Yeah. So the first one, supply and demand.
Yep.
I don't have empty units. I'm not keeping people.
Mhm.
I'm not racist. I'm not stopping people from renting from me. I'm not an exclusionist. No. I have my pick of the litter.
Mhm.
That's how it goes. When you disincent builders from building affordable homes, the government is ineffectual and can't do it. And so what does that create? That creates a market where much of what's created is unaffordable to most.
Mhm.
However, as people move up in the process, they get to those units. And so the very simple first one that I have is supply and demand. I have 80 inquiries for my overpriced units.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem to be a problem. Your turn.
Yeah, I thought one of the numbers that he put out, I didn't fact check it, but I'm gonna guess it's accurate. At least he has sourced his data from somewhere. I think is really telling. We lost 3.7 million affordable units, but we had 13.3 million, luxury units added.
Yep.
That is to your point, right? And my answer to him is, John, what are we supposed to do? Is the government supposed to build units and they're going to run them? We've tried that. Didn't work.
Yep.
The underlying problem is, I totally agree. We without question do not have enough affordable units, but don't shoot the landlords that have them.
Nope.
That's
not our fault.
That story was long ago done. So he doesn't provide a solution. He just points at, hey, that's a problem. Well, okay.
I have a solution.
Okay, cool. I like it.
Because I actually know what I'm doing, unlike John Oliver.
Yeah.
One of the solutions is, one of the case studies of this is Houston.
Mhm.
Houston has some of the most affordable housing in the country.
Okay.
Their affordable housing, the median house price in Houston has gone up very little over the last 3 years.
Okay.
The reason that is, their local government does not focus on zoning.
Interesting. Okay.
If you allow builders to do best use of land,
Mhm.
they will do that every single time.
Okay.
Because they're in this to make money. The only reason that you have to put a $900,000 house on a 2-acre piece of land is because it's a 2-acre piece of land.
Yeah.
If it were a strip,
right,
a tenth of an acre, you can put a nice house on it, but it's not going to be a $900,000 house.
Exactly.
It can be a $300,000 house, thus affordable median pricing. So if you want to do a case study of the most affordable places, look at Houston over the course of a 5-year period, 3-year period. Their median house price has largely stayed the same. And if you talk to the developers that are there, they actually cite the fact that it's because of the zoning laws that allow them to build the housing that's in demand, not the housing that they have to build because zoning laws force a certain hand.
Yeah. And again, you don't point at landlords for that, John.
Nope.
You point at the local, city, state, federal, local and state, I guess, not federal, but zoning laws. That's where all of that relies. And a big problem with that is, I think it's called NIMBYism, right? Not in my backyard.
Right. Sure.
So again, you don't point it to people that have the inventory and say you're the problem. Point it where the source of the problem is. And by the way, the other thing if you come in and do things like, I think it was Portland, Oregon, came in and basically created some very obtrusive rules around investment properties where the landlords just kicked tenants out and sold the properties to owner occs.
Correct.
You lost 3.7 million affordable units. A lot of that is because local legislation says that's not good, that's better. So they sell, right? They do what they're supposed to do. So,
100%.
Yeah. The other thing I thought was really interesting was his stance on housing vouchers, right? So if people don't know my story, every single one of my units has always been available for Section 8 since day one, everything. So I'm a huge proponent. It's just part of my story, right? Housing insecure. So I'm a big proponent. He's right. I mean, I don't remember the young lady's name, but 29 years since applying, she finally got approved. Problem, right? That's not the landlord's fault. That's the housing voucher system program. Yes, and then the other thing he talked about very quickly, which I was like, oh my God, this is clearly, if you don't understand what this means, you're not paying attention. But he basically said the program is underfunded, clearly, but why don't we double, triple, quadruple it? Well, I'm like, interesting, but let's just remember what's going to happen, right? That's a great idea. Let's house more people on the federal dime, but that will cause inflation. I just don't want anybody to be surprised, right? I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying you're going to get housing, you're going to get rent explosion, because what happens in lots of cities, not all cities, but lots of cities, is the Section 8 limit is the floor, right? In some areas, it's the ceiling, but many it's the floor.
Do you really know, honestly, do you know of any city where Section 8 is the ceiling?
There's probably some cities in the Midwest I hear about. I hear things like Mississippi and Arkansas. I've never invested or lived there. It's just stories I hear from other investors as I travel around. So there are some.
I can tell you in my market, it's nowhere near.
Well, not my market either, but I mean, it does happen.
So I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but clearly maybe they're doing something different and better in their markets than we are. But I think the market that's probably where Section 8's the ceiling is probably a very poor market.
Exactly. Yeah. I would assume that average incomes are not great if that's the case.
That would be my,
logically speaking.
And that there's probably there's probably no industry there. There's probably a lot of things there.
Exactly.
And so it's a very, very poor area where the government says we're grading this on a statewide level or a county-wide level. And these areas are dirt broke. And so you can actually afford something there. And thus it's being highest.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing that I thought was that I think we just both need to acknowledge is, yes, without question, there are horrible slumlords in this country. There are. Just, in fact, over the years, I've bought in properties from slumlords, and I'm shocked that people live in the conditions that these a-holes did. I mean, if you're a landlord, it is your responsibility to make sure it's safe and secure. That's your job. It's not to milk the property and ask people to live in a condition. There's a special place in hell for slumlords, in my opinion.
Yep. So real quick, I want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I was just going to say what was not said in that story is there are just as many horrible tenants.
I want to talk about that too, but the first part of that, right? Slumlord piece, right? So landlords have gotten like that's the nasty thing that landlords get called. We get called slumlords. Okay, whatever.
And there are some, no question.
100% there are. However, the clip that he had on Dave Ramsey, where the guy called in and said, I can't, I have to raise this guy's rent.
Mhm.
I'm being forced to raise this guy's rent.
Yeah.
Then he cuts the clip. I went hunting for that clip.
Mhm.
The rest of what that guy actually said
Mm.
was, because every month I have to write a check for my property.
It's an alligator. So
Yep.
yeah.
And that can happen over time.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
so
Yeah.
my
Look,
point-
look at Texas. Property taxes going up. How's that feel?
single family, I'm telling you, single family homes are going to get killed, and they're getting killed.
Yeah.
But let's unwrap this a little bit more. So he shows part of a clip, fraud. Then he doesn't show the rest of the clip, where the guy's literally, where the landlord is basically saying, I am stuck. I don't want to raise the rent, but I can't afford to keep on writing a check. And this guy's owned the property for years. He didn't just buy it. So he didn't buy a bad deal. He's gotten inflated out of. So two real quick points. One is, a lot of those properties that you're going to find that are rent control, rent stabilized, and then all of a sudden have these horrible landlords, it's because it costs the same exact thing to fix a pipe in a $10,000 a month unit in New York as it does a $2,000 a month unit in New York. The difference is you don't have the revenues to pull it from. So you're expecting that landlording has all of a sudden become a non-for-profit altruistic approach. And that's just stupidity on John's part and his entire staff's part.
Yeah. Well, he was going for something. Yeah.
Yeah. You are going to paint that picture. At the end of the day, it is supply and demand. It is economics 101. It can't cost more to operate and fix and repair. And granted, there are those strategies, but just to make sure, I buy a building, I want rent, it's stabilized, I know it going in.
Mhm.
Then I try and buy out the tenants. A bunch of people take it, some people don't. They still want to stay for $2,500 while the market is $6,000. I know that because I live in New York City and New York City has a rat problem. I know that rats are going to come out of the woodwork, and I'm warning tenants that's going to happen. One of the ladies literally complained and said they used a crowbar to demo the apartment. What would you like me to use? A fork and knife? I'm going to have to use a crowbar to demo the apartment. So I just want to give the contrary view to what John did on all of these different points, which is he lives in fantasy land and I live in the real world, and we do things daily for our tenants. We work so hard for our tenants, but they recognize if I rented them the unit for $500 a month less, I wouldn't be able to afford to fix the things, take care of the lawn mowing, take care of the plowing, take care of the roof repair, take care of the clogged toilet. I couldn't take care of all those things if I were losing money.
Mhm.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. The other thing I want to be very clear on, and actually it's funny, I did a video on this before the John Oliver, or at least before I saw the John Oliver thing. And I did this with him, Lane. Corporate landlords suck.
Yeah.
Right. Corporate landlords are for-profit organizations that
Yes.
are heartless. They don't listen. And they're gonna always push, right? They have all these layers of stupid management.
Yes.
And the person on the ground to the VP of this or that, of course they're just gonna be bad operators. And I would never rent from a corporate landlord. I want a mom and pop landlord that'll listen to me. Again, people don't know this, but John Oliver, I forgave almost $50,000 in rent during the pandemic, like the first 6 months of the pandemic, before the government came in and started cutting checks. I forgave it. I never went back and asked for it. It was on us because that was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And, oh, by the way, let's not forget the flip side. 2 of my tenants decided to play games and hear the president say they never had to pay rent again. So they didn't, and they could.
Mhm.
Eventually they were evicted and hit for a significant judgment because the people that needed help got it to the tune of, let's just round it up to 50 grand. But if you're going to play the game and be a bad person as a tenant, we can handle that too. So again, John, there are on a percentage basis, it might be the same, but there are some horrible tenants. I had a tenant take a hammer to my entire drywall because they were subletting a property and not qualified. How is that my fault? They're breaking the law. And then they go destroy my property to the tune of 20 grand. That's okay, John? I mean, really? I mean, that's okay.
Yep. I've had tenants go to the bathroom in the sink and then just leave it there. And then I've also had them not flush a toilet for a week.
Mm.
and you can't do anything about that. You have to just throw out you literally have to like bag it, throw out. I mean, it's a mess.
Yeah, yeah.
So another one that I wanted to touch on, which if you'd humor me a little bit, Michael, and give me like a minute to play a little game with you.
Sure.
Here's the game. Rent stabilized units.
Mm-hmm.
You tell me if these people had rent stabilized units.
Okay.
Cyndi Lauper.
Ever?
No. During the
Oh.
80s, 90s.
Oh,
when she was active.
Yeah, I think she did. Yeah. In New York. Yeah. I think she did.
She did. Yep.
Yeah.
She did. The going rent for her apartment was $10,000.
Okay.
She complained when they raised it to $3,250, and the court ruled in her favor at $989.
So Cyndi Lauper, if you don't know who she is, "Girls Just Want to Have Fun," I think was her hit
You nailed
song.
it. Yep. I will
And
make you sing it.
no, I'm not going to sing it, but it was my daughter's karaoke song for a little while. That's the only reason I remember it. That's hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah. Another one, Mia Farrow. Did she have stabilized housing?
I would not have guessed that one. No.
Yeah. Movie star, 70s, 80s, married to Woody Allen, one of the richest Hollywood personalities. No matter what you think of them, those are facts. She had an 11-room apartment overlooking Central Park.
Wow.
$2,500 a month. Because of the rules, she was able to inherit from her parents.
Yeah, that's the whole problem with rent stabilization, or whatever you call it, is once you get in, you never want to leave.
Yep. And lastly, the most interesting one, Charlie Rangel.
I actually don't know who that is.
He's a long time, I believe he's a congressman, a long time.
Oh, geez, really?
Yeah. Even worse, he had 4 of them.
Oh, gosh.
So I don't want to hear about this stupid rent stabilization idea. It's stupid. It's stupid. And you know what? Michael's right. The quote is, what's the faster way to ruin a city than rent stabilization? Bomb it.
There's only one.
Bomb it. And here's some numbers. Post World War II in the UK, they had, in areas around those bases, they had 53% of the homes were owned by landlords. They put anti-landlord rules in and rent control in and all these things. Today, 8% of them are owned by landlords. Buy affordable housing over the course of a half a decade, where it's almost none. And last question that I have for you, that's a quick quiz, which is, what are the worst areas for rent control in the country? What are the worst ones? 3 worst.
New York, San Francisco, and Oakland.
DC. New York, San Francisco, DC. And we're soon going to be able to add Minneapolis and Seattle to that. Michael, real quick question. Where are the highest rents in the country?
I'm going to guess New York, San Francisco, and DC.
Yeah, it's not going well.
Not going well. Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I can appreciate John trying to be funny. The sad thing is, people actually watch his garbage for news.
Yeah, that was it got like 1 million clips in like 8 hours or something.
Yeah.
And it
So
just makes people, it wasn't balanced. It wasn't fair. It doesn't attack the real problem.
Do you know what the New York rent stabilization number is?
No idea.
It is 1.5. If you sign a 1-year lease, it is 1.5%.
Oh, wow.
Does 1.5% inflation? Is that what inflation's been for the last 10 years, 20 years?
No,
years?
that's why buildings that are rent stabilized, they get milked because the costs explode. And
so over a 10-year period, right? You look at 1.5 and 1.5, 1.5. Here's the crazy thing. You sign a 2-year lease, it's 2.5. They give you a discount.
Oh, jeez.
So it's 2.5. At the end of the day, guys, it's economics 101. And I didn't even go to high school or college, but it's just simple math, which is, how can I keep the cost? How at 1.5% can I keep up with the cost of making it pretty, taking care of it, doing the lawn, doing all the things that I need to do? How can I do that if I'm not at least raising at least the rate that inflation is raising? How am I able to do that? And there's some years, Mike and I have both talked about it, where there's years that we're flat for years. And then all of a sudden we're just like, whoa,
what happened?
Whoa, they just readjusted my pricing. And then we have to do that to keep up with it, because guess what else? The banks don't lend to us because we're so handsome.
No, I would get no money.
They rent to us because we have sound businesses. And so that I actually did a video, Mike, on how I got a bank to create a product for me. And I showed exactly all the things I presented to the bank. And so landlords, if you're great operators, all of these things you already know. All the things I already covered, Mike already covered today, you already know all this stuff. The key is being a great operator. That's what I did the presentation on. And that's why a bank created a lending product for me.
Yeah. Yeah. As we kind of wrap this up, again, John Oliver, you were very witty. Your writers are awesome. You unfortunately took a hot topic, didn't make it balanced. You took the worst of the worst people, and there's no question there are slumlords. I didn't see any really resolutions. The only one I heard was fund it more, which will create inflation. Let's not forget the second half. Cunning clips to tell your story is disingenuous at best, if not misleading. Not okay. Matt, where can people find you?
So you can find me at Lumberjack Landlord on YouTube and on Instagram, and then 11:30 a.m. Eastern time on Sundays. And then tonight, special appearance, one night only, the Lumberjack Landlord on Dion Talk Financial Freedom, 7 p.m. Eastern tonight. I'm going till the questions stop in honor of our boy who's on a cruise.
You're going on his channel to host
I'm doing
hours of Q&A.
Yeah. So we're actually, because it was too complicated to actually do it on his channel, I'm doing it in place of him. But he's actually advertised on his channel. You'll find it at Lumberjack Landlord. I posted in our Facebook groups. I posted on Instagram. It's all there. And then lastly, real quick, I wanted to give a quick shout out because some of the numbers and facts that I shared today were from someone called the Actual Justice Warrior.
Oh,
he shared a number of these numbers in his presentation. Awesome. So I wanted to make sure he got credit. Not all of it was his, but some of that stuff smattered in there was his stuff.
Yeah.
The New York Rent Control, Charlie Rangel, Cyndi Lauper stuff, that was him. I couldn't find that stuff. So wanted to make sure Actual Justice Warrior got credit for that because he did an amazing job. He turned that 18 or 19 minute video into like 40 something minutes.
Good for him. Good for him.
Yeah, he crushed.
All right, buddy. Thanks again.
Thanks, Mike.
Mm-hmm.